Hello, my name is Travis. You can call me Trav if you'd like. There's going to be about a 2 or 3 minute intro. You can skip ahead. You'll probably, get to the good, the juicy bits, as my dad would call it, if you do that. But I have an intro. This is it. On the YouTube side of things, I share both of these. I share it on YouTube. I share it on Facebook. On the YouTube side of this, I'll share shorts, and I tend to get a lot more attitude or like know-it-all kind of people toward what I'm trying to talk about. And I wanted to let you guys know, like, this isn't just me coming up with my opinions, right? Like, I actually study. I study for this. I put a lot of time into it. I put a lot of effort into it. I have a lot of back problems, so I have to do it at my own pace. Some days I'm better than others. I also have mental health issues, so that's another thing. If you're wondering why I'm wearing a hoodie, by the way, in the middle of August, it's because I am sick. I can't figure out if I'm hot or cold. Okay, so that's a side point. But listen, I study for this. This is actual psychology. This is me trying to deliver it in the best way I know how. I do add my own bits in there as well. My personality will show through here and there. If you don't like that, you don't have to watch it. Honestly, like, it really is up to you. I'm just a dude who's super curious about psychology, and I love to share what I learn. Okay, so I just noticed this last short I put up, there was a few comments on there that on YouTube that I had to correct until I was like kind of gave up, and I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to do the video, and if they want more information, they'll just click the link and then they can see this video. So if you are interested and you click the link, thank you so much for being here. Now, this is what I call my research pad. It is simply my phone. I take all my notes on my notepad here. I don't know if you can pick it up. It's just a notepad. And so without further ado, though, I don't want to drag this on forever, so I do kind of want to just jump in. Now, this is something that normally when I start a study, it's because of something that's happened to me personally or something I've observed that has bothered me or has made me curious about something. Well, this specific topic is because this drives me insane, okay? I'm not immune to it to some level. Nobody is. Everybody has this to some level. That's the crazy part about it, is like we do tend to mimic the people we are around. And I'm OCD and I'm hyper aware of certain things, so like some things really start to bother me, and this is one. So it made me curious, you know. So let's start. The first thing is called impression management, right? It's a psychological concept. Impression management is basically our tendency to control how other people perceive us. All right? And again, everybody does this. You might act more professional around your boss. You might be more polite around someone's parents. You might try to seem confident around someone you're attracted to. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. But this is where it gets annoying, okay? When somebody isn't just adjusting their behavior, they're completely reinventing themselves depending on who's watching. Their opinions suddenly change, their personality changes, their interests change, the way they talk changes. And you can literally watch them calculating what version of me is going to get these people to like me. This is why we find it annoying now. One reason that it can bother us is that we naturally expect some consistency from people we know. We don't expect someone to behave exactly the same in every situation, but we generally expect there to be some underlying sense of who that person is. When somebody constantly changes themselves depending on who's watching, it can make their behavior feel less genuine. Instead of feeling like you're seeing a different side of the same person, it can feel like you're watching someone create a completely different version of themselves for a specific audience. And that can make us question what is actually real. We might start thinking, do they actually believe what they're saying, or are they saying it because they know these people will like them? And once you start questioning someone's authenticity, their behavior can become much more irritating because you're no longer just observing a personality difference. You're watching what looks like a performance, okay? Now, this is the story I told in my short that made people, how they were about it. So there's a guy I know. He's a white dude, super nerdy guy. And he, when you talk to him, he's like, he is a know-it-all. He's like, I'm super smart, I know everything kind of guy. But he's just a average white nerdy dude when you talk to him. And then he'll get around certain people, we'll say, and his whole personality changes. He starts talking with a black accent. His whole, yo, what it do, homie? And it's just so cringy to me. Like, it cringes me out so much. And it was one of the reasons I wanted to start the study, is because he does it, and numerous other people I've known have done it to a degree that it became annoying. Not just an average, okay, this person's acting a little different, or this person might want to fit in, so they're, changing this or that. But I mean, like, when your opinions change on life, and your accent changes, and your everything, that's a whole different story, okay? And psychologically, it's a different story. So I wanted to kind of let you know my side there, why it annoys me, okay? And why it can annoy us, because I know I'm not the only one that this annoys. So, and that's what makes it feel so fake. It's not that they're behaving differently. It's that you can feel you're watching somebody perform, okay? Now, this next psychological concept is called the chameleon effect. Shout out to my homie Angie. Angie called this. She calls them chameleons, these kind of people, and that's what it's called psychologically, is the chameleon effect. The second one is called the chameleon effect. This is our tendency to unconsciously mimic the people we're around. We pick up people's mannerisms, facial expressions, gestures, speech patterns, and even their energy without necessarily realizing we're doing it. And again, we all do this. Spend enough time around somebody and you might start using one of their phrases. You might pick up their accent to some level. You might start talking faster because they talk fast. You might even start laughing like them. Your brain is constantly adapting to people around you. So, like I said, this is not like an abnormal thing to some level. Even an accent change can pick up to some level, right? Like, it's just there's levels to this, is what I'm trying to say. But this is where it gets annoying. Sometimes this natural tendency gets exaggerated. Instead of just picking up a phrase or mannerism here and there, somebody starts dramatically changing the way they speak, move, joke, or carry themselves around a particular person. You might notice their voice change, their vocabulary changes, their mannerisms change, even their energy seems completely different. And then as soon as that person leaves, they're back to the way they normally are. This is why we can find it annoying now. The reason is this can be irritating is because the chameleon effect is normally subtle and unconscious. It's not like we're trying to do it. We expect people to naturally influence each other because that's a part of us. It's a part of being human. But when the imitation becomes obvious enough that we can see the transformation happening in real time, it can start to feel unnatural. We're no longer just seeing somebody connect with another person. We're seeing somebody seemingly become a different version of themselves in order to match them. And because we already have an idea of how that person normally talks and behaves, the contrast can be almost jarring. Your brain basically recognizes, wait a minute, that's not how you normally act. And when something feels noticeably inconsistent with what we already know about somebody, it naturally grabs our attention. That's why it can become so irritating. It's not necessarily the fact they're being influenced by somebody, it's how obvious and exaggerated the change becomes. Sometimes you watch somebody around a certain person and you're thinking, dude, you don't even talk like that. And then that person leaves and suddenly they're back to normal. It's almost like watching somebody's personality load in depending on who's in the room, okay? Now, this is what I find interesting about this, is it's not just that one nerdy guy I told you about. I have a cousin that did the same thing. He was also super nerdy too. It's weird, like nerdy white guys trying to act black. He did the same kind of black thing. But because of the fact that one of the comments was, oh, it's racism, you're talking about racism. No, it's deeper than that. It's not just that, okay? Yeah, okay. We could call everything racism here, but it's not just that. It is a psychological tendency that every human being has. I'll give you another example. My old girlfriend's father is he was born in England, but he moved here very early on, so he adapted an American accent. Well, I noticed when he would talk to his mom on the phone, he started talking with a British accent. Or if his family would visit down here in America, he would have a British accent. His mannerisms changed. He started acting like a British person. Like, if you know what I mean by that. Like, obviously, it's not like we all act different. It's just like the things that somebody from like England would like say or do, or a mannerism or something, like a saying, like a slang word that they would use or something, he would start doing. So it bothered me, just like it bothered me with the nerdy white guy. And I went to my ex now, it's my daughter's mother, the woman from literal hell, and I was like, it was me, her, and her stepdad and her mom all eating at a table. Well, he started to try to convince me. He started telling me how he doesn't have one accent. He has two accents. And looking back on it now, I think it's because I had talked to my girlfriend about it at the time and told her, like, what's up with your dad doing that? And she went and told him I said that because she was just that way. You couldn't trust her with anything. So, like, and I was like, okay, like, is this the wine talking or what? And no, he was legitimately trying to convince me he not only had one accent, but he had two. And he flipped on into speaking into a British accent like it was something he was proud of. And this is the point I started to realize I think this man is mental, okay? Because that's not how accents work. That's not how it works. Your brain doesn't just hold two accents and you get to just choose which one you go into. You have to mimic one, right? So he did the same thing. And it annoyed me too, all right? Now, that's why this one can be so funny but also irritating, because you know they're not necessarily doing it consciously, even though this guy didn't think he was, but you're sitting there watching it happen in real time, right? Now, number 3, we only have 2 more of these, so after this one. Number 3, normative social influence. The psychology. The third is normative social influence. This is when we change our behavior because we want to fit into a group and avoid being rejected. Basically, humans have a powerful need to belong, and sometimes we'll go along with things we don't even necessarily agree with because everyone around us is doing it. Again, we all do this. Although I hate witnessing that as well, because I am somebody who actively tries not to be that way. That's a whole nother subject for a different video, but I try to be who I am no matter where I am, and I don't care who likes it or who doesn't. That's just kind of how I am. So you might laugh at a joke because everybody else is laughing. You might start liking something because all your friends like it. You might change the way you dress because the people around you dress a certain way. The normal social behavior, that's normal. Now, this is where it gets annoying, though. It becomes annoying when somebody seems to completely abandon their own opinions as soon as they get around a group. They're one person when they're alone with you. Then they get around 5 other people and suddenly their entire attitude changes. They might suddenly agree with things they were criticizing 5 minutes ago. They might start insulting somebody simply because everyone else is doing it. They might pretend to like something because the group likes it. Somebody in the comments left a comment about that, about a kid. I don't know if you're watching this or not, but you left it about when you were a kid, he did that. So they might pretend to like something because the group likes it. And sometimes it gets to the point where it seems like they don't actually have an opinion until they hear everybody else's opinion first. This is why we find it annoying now. One reason we might find this irritating is that we generally value some degree of independence and consistency in each other. And other people. It's completely normal to be influenced by your friends. But when someone consistently changes their opinions based on whoever happens to be around, it becomes difficult to know what they genuinely believe. And that uncertainty can be frustrating. Because if I talk to you alone and I tell... What did I even put there? But if I talk to you alone and you tell me one thing and then you completely reverse your position when somebody else walks into the room, I don't know which opinion is actually yours. It can also create the impression that avoiding rejection is more important to you than being honest. And that's something people tend to notice because disagreement isn't necessarily a problem. In fact, somebody who can disagree with a group and still be uncomfortable expressing their opinion can come across as more confident and authentic. But when someone seems incapable of disagreeing with the people around them, it can make their behavior feel predictable in a different way. Whatever the group thinks, that's what they think. Someone makes fun of something, now they're making fun of it. Everybody hates something, now they hate it. Everybody thinks something's cool, suddenly they've loved it forever. I think maybe we've all met somebody like this, okay? Like this can't just be a me thing, and the fact that it annoys me, I think is like, yeah, I think it would annoy some people, but for me, I feel like there's a level to this that is like almost unhealthy for me. Like, I hate it. I not only dislike it, it's not only annoying, but like I can't stand being around people like this. And I've looked into the psychology of why I hate it to the degree that I have, but I don't think most people hate it like I do. So I've just kind of excluded that and just put why it could annoy us, because I do think it would annoy more people than not. That's just an assumption though. So self-monitoring. This is the second to last psychological concept. Self-monitoring is basically how much a person pays attention to how they're being perceived and adjusts their behavior based on social situations. Some people are naturally high self-monitors. They're constantly reading the room. Who's here? What's acceptable? How should I act? What kind of behavior gets rewarded? And again, there's nothing wrong with being socially aware. Honestly, being able to read a room is a useful skill. But this is where it gets annoying, okay? It becomes annoying when someone is constantly monitoring themselves to the point that their personality seems to change depending on the social environment. They're not just adjusting how they behave. They're changing which version of themselves they're presenting. They're loud with one group, quiet with another, tough around certain people, sensitive around someone else. They agree with whoever they're talking to. And it can seem like every social situation activates a completely different personality. Now, I know a lot of this sounds the same, but because it is similar, this is why we find it annoying. One reason this bothers us is that humans generally like having some predictability in the people around us, just straight up. We don't need people to be identical everywhere they go, but we like having some sense of what they're going to be like. If somebody is constantly changing their behavior based on the people around them, it can make them harder to read. And when someone becomes difficult to read, it can create uncertainty. You start wondering, which version of this person am I actually dealing with? And that can become exhausting over time, because instead of simply interacting with the person, you feel like you're constantly having to figure out which social version of them you're getting. It can also make relationships feel less authentic, because you're never completely sure whether you're seeing their genuine personality or the personality they think is most appropriate for the situation. And that's probably why this behavior can irritate us so much. We're not necessarily mad that someone is socially adaptable. We're annoyed when it feels like there's no consistent person underneath the adaptation. All right? Now, like I said, some of this sounds incredibly familiar. I mean, it is familiar, but it sounds the same, but it's not. It's like, if you really get it, it's like the underlying point is the same, but there are differences in why it's bothering us, okay? Like, because as human beings, like it says, we like to know we like predictability, you know, when it comes to somebody. We feel like, think about it like this. You feel safer with the person you're most comfortable, like you feel safer with the person that you know the most. Because when you know them and you get to know, you know, at first, for me, I'm an introvert. You might not be able to tell on here. I'm super introverted in real life. I'm very quiet until I get to know you. And then a whole nother side of me comes out. I hear a lot of people say that, but like, I really am. I'm like, I don't even like going out because of it. Like, I have social anxiety disorder and stuff. So like, I'm like very introverted. For me, at first, somebody might think I'm even weird. I don't know. I'm super quiet. I don't talk much. But I can put on a face if it's needed. Like, if my dad's like socially famous around the town I'm in. So like, if I'm out with him and people come up, I can put on a face and be like, oh, hey, how's it going? And all this. But it's exhausting for me, you know. But my point is, before we get to the last point here, is once you get to know me, I'm totally different. So like, there is everybody does these things, but you feel safer with the person. The more you get to know them, the more you find out the real them, the more then you're like consistently seeing the real them. Now you feel safer with them, because it's like, I trust this person. I've been around them long enough to know who they are. But that all starts falling away. It starts chipping apart because if this person is just changing everywhere they go, you don't know if you can trust them. You don't know if you're getting the real them. You don't know any of that. It all just goes away, right? So the last point is identity signaling. The fifth one and final one. Identity signaling is when we use our behavior, language, appearance, interest, or associations to communicate something about who we are. Basically, this is the kind of person I want you to think I am. And once again, everybody does this. The clothes you wear can signal something. The music you listen to can signal something. The way you talk can signal something. Even the people you associate with can communicate an identity. There's nothing inherently wrong with that, but this is where it gets annoying. It becomes annoying when somebody starts adapting an entire identity based on whoever they're trying to associate themselves with. Suddenly they talk differently, they dress differently, they act differently, they have completely different opinions. They suddenly become interested in things they didn't seem to care about before. And sometimes you know this person well enough to think you didn't even care about any of this 6 months ago. It's not just that they picked up a new interest, it's that their entire personality seems to shift to match the identity of the people they want to fit in with. I think a lot of teenagers do this trying to find themselves, but where it gets annoying for me is whenever it's an adult doing that still. So this is why we can find it annoying. The reason this can bother us is that identity is something we generally perceive as being relatively stable. Obviously, people change. People discover new interests. People grow. People change their opinions. That's normal. Completely normal. But when somebody's entire identity seems to change depending on the social group they're around, it can make that identity feel less authentic. It can look like they're not expressing who they are. They're trying to communicate who they think they need to be in order to belong. And when you've known somebody for a long time, you may notice that immediately. You remember who they were before. You remember what they used to like. You remember how they used to talk. So when they suddenly become the exact type of person that a particular group seems to value, the contrast can be obvious. That's when it can feel less like this is something I genuinely enjoy, and more like this is the identity I need to have in order to be accepted. Now, this is a real story before I get to the very final thing I have down here. My ex-wife, I talk how I talk, okay? Hold on. I gotta position my back. It's just, I have a lot wrong with my back. So, like, I'm the kind of person that I say words that don't, like, my friends don't say, and, like I'll say, like, dope. Still, I'll be like, man, that's dope. That's rad. That's sick. That's, right on. I say right on a lot. Stuff like that. And my ex-wife told me not too long ago, whenever we were talking, she was like, nobody else talks like that, Travis. And I was like, so? And she seemed to, like, say it like negative, like, you shouldn't talk like that because nobody else talks like that. But I was just sitting there thinking, like, I don't care. Like, that's how I want to talk, you know? So I think we need to be careful with how much we want to fit in, because, like, there is obviously a line here with this stuff. Like, I mean, the more you study, the more you learn. Like, it's okay, like, to have those normal human tendencies, but it's like, dude, like, who cares if you talk different than everybody else, or if you walk different than everybody else? Like, that's a whole nother psychological concept we can get into. I'll make a whole video about it, because that also bothers me as well, that people care so much about what other people think. You know, it goes into tribalism and stuff, and I know there's all these evolutionary reasons we could throw out about that, but I hate it. I hate that my personality is I hate that we still have a lot of stuff in us from the past. If you believe in evolution, I'll talk to you then. If you say, well, this is because back in the day we had to have our tribe and our tribe had to be this way or that way, whatever. I hate that we're like this. Like I've said before in one of my videos, it's like, as a human race, why don't we grow up? Like, that's how it feels to me. Like, we're stuck like little kids in some ways. It's just we have these tendencies that tend to just drive me insane. So, anyway, I think the important distinction, because I don't want this video to turn into if you act differently around different people, you're fake, because that's BS. That's not true. We all have different sides of ourselves. There's a version of you that comes out around your family, a version that comes out around your closest friends, a version that comes out at work, a version that comes out when you're alone. That's normal. The interesting question is, how much are you actually adapting and how much are you performing? Because there's a difference between somebody bringing out a different side of you and you completely changing who you are because you desperately want someone else to accept you. That's the part that annoys me. God dang, I need to do a video about that. And maybe that's why it bothers us so much. When we see it, we're not necessarily thinking you're acting differently. We're thinking, I know you. Why are you pretending to be somebody you're not? And I think that ultimately what separates normal social adaptation from the behavior we're talking about in this video. It's not about whether you act differently around people, like different people. It's about how extreme the difference becomes, how consistently it happens, and whether there still seems to be a genuine person underneath all of those different versions. Okay? I know a lot of this sounded very similar. I hope you got something out of it, but in closing, I would like to say, be yourself, man. Like, screw fitting in. Honest to God, seriously, like, I don't care what anybody says. I will say that until the day I die. The whole reason that people can be so influential, like, people, can have heroes, musicians, actors, whatever, that really inspire them. And the whole reason that person is so inspirational is because they're them. That's Michael Jackson inspired many people. Why? Because he was him. He was Michael Jackson. Eminem inspired a lot of people. Why? Because he was Eminem. He didn't care what anybody else thought, and that inspired people like me to not care what anybody else thought. So, like, just keep that in mind, be yourself, because yourself is what makes you worth anything. If you just going around trying to be like everybody else, to me, and this isn't psychology, now I'm going to make that very clear. For me, I find it pathetic. That's just how it hits me, right? And I understand that that's a personal opinion. I find it super pathetic. I find it annoying. I find it like, it's when you're a full-blown adult and you're just like the chameleon effect is taking over your life and you're just turning into whatever you're around. Grow up, be yourself, find who you are. I don't care if you got to go to therapy, freaking sing Kumbaya down a river in a boat. I don't know. Do something to stop trying to monkey see, monkey do every little thing. These people are this way, so I have to be this way. These people think this, so I want to fit in. I want to fit in. Who cares if you fit in? Okay? So that's my message from a personal standpoint, not a psychological standpoint. But it's just how I feel about it, right? So screw what everybody thinks. Just I don't know why we care. And yeah, I'm not gonna sit here and act like I don't care what people think, because I do, but like, it drives me nuts that even I do. And I try to actively fight that in me because I don't want to be that way. Screw what people think. Like, and I do notice I don't care what people think more than a lot of people I meet, and that's for sure. But Anyway, yeah, so if you are one of the people that commented on YouTube, I hope you clicked and watched the full thing, because I hope that it taught you something rather than you just popping your lips off. You know, maybe you learned something. And then for the people on the Facebook side, thank you for your recommendation, and thank you for being so far. Everybody on Facebook's been very polite and nice, so I do appreciate that. I love you all. I hope that you're here for the next one. Please do like, because liking goes a long way. You know, it really does grow the channel. And if you haven't subscribed, I noticed that I think it was like 98% of the people that watch my stuff isn't subscribed, which is crazy to me. If you would just hit subscribe, that would be awesome, and then you'll just be notified. You can hit the bell, be notified whenever I upload on YouTube. So, yeah. Thank you, guys. I love you. See you on the next one. Be yourself. Be yourself.